Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Estate Exam Prep, where I break down the real estate exam. I go piece by piece so that way you can have a better understanding and pass that real estate exam on the first try. I'm your host, Big Lou. I'm here. Today's lesson. So today we're going to go over real property rights. That's what we're going to talk about, just real property rights, what they are, and what do you get when you own real property. So the first thing we need to figure out is, well, what are real property rights? So real property rights are going to consist of the bundle of rights, which we're going to get into, and then also rights associated with owning a parcel of land. Well, what is that? Yeah, they're two different things. You have the bundle of rights, then you have rights associated with owning land. Now, let's start with that first. So the rights associated with owning land are going to consist of air rights, surface rights, and then either subterranean, subsurface, or mineral rights. They all mean the same thing. It all depends on how you see it on the exam. So it could be subterranean, subsurface, or mineral rights. Those are the three rights that you have associated when you own a parcel of land. So what does that mean? Take a look at this picture. All right, folks, so in this picture here, you see we have this cube. Now, technically, when you own a parcel of real estate, you actually own all the way down to the core of the earth and all the way as high as the heavens, okay? Now, because of limitations, which we'll get into in the next video, you can't charge airplanes rent when they go over your property because you don't own that space anymore. The government took it. That's just what happens, okay? And you can't dig as far as you want down because guess what? The government owns that too. So there's gonna be some limitations that will limit your ownership abilities, but technically, this is what we have. So the point here is that with these three rights, is that each one of these rights are independent of each other, meaning that you can either lease or sell your air rights and still retain ownership of the surface rights or your subterranean rights, or you can sell your subsurface rights and still retain ownership of your surface rights and your air rights. Now, I'm in the Boston market, so if you look at this picture here, like everyone is seeing this sign, right? The Citgo sign, the Prudential Tower, and so forth, the landmarks here in Boston. So what does that have to do? Well, that's air rights, right? So now you can see how valuable air rights can be. And look, by definition, air rights is just any space above the surface. That's it. That's your air rights, okay? But because of zoning, which we'll get into limitations, zoning will dictate how high you can go, right? Now, if you're in a market like this, like Boston, that could be very lucrative, right? Your air rights, being able to, maybe lease it or sell it to a billboard company where they can advertise and so forth, you can really monetize on that. What we do see is we have folks that will look at cell phone towers, right? They'll lease, tall buildings, they'll lease the air rights to cell phone towers, and meanwhile the owner still retains ownership of the surface rights, right? So that's a nice way to just keep money, coming in. So air rights is something definitely to be mindful of because there could be a lot of money there. Now, for surface rights, simply just means that you have the right to use the land, you can sell the land, you can do whatever you want on the land, again within legal confines and so forth. So you have that ability. Now, for mineral rights or subsurface or subterranean rights, you might see it either way. It all means the same thing. It depends on how they want to word it on the exam. These are your rights to the land below the surface, right? In theory, any land below the surface is going to be considered your subterranean rights. So you have the right to that land. You also have the right to mine any of the minerals that are there. Now, those minerals could be solid, right? Could be, gems, coal, whatever it is. Or it could be gaseous, or it could be liquid, like oil. Even though it's flowing, if it's under your property, you have a right to tap into it. Now, if you look at this picture over here, you have an oil pump, right? Now, what you could do is maybe lease or sell the rights, your mineral rights, to an oil company. But guess what? The oil company has to put their rig on something. They need land. So you retain ownership of the land and you can kind of double dip there, right? So it's pretty cool that you're able to do that. So remember, all three rights, they are independent of each other. But typically when you buy land, if they're not separated, you're getting all three all in one package. Now that we've gone over the land rights of the property, let's talk about your legal rights, the bundle of rights that are included when you purchase property. So let's talk about the bundle of rights. So there are 5 rights that are included when you purchase a property. You automatically get these 5 rights, okay? Now, by definition, we're looking at the bundle of rights refers to the different interests and rights an owner has in his or her property. When individuals purchase a piece of property, they automatically receive certain rights to that property. Now, what are the 5 rights that they receive? Well, number 1 is possession, quiet enjoyment or enjoyment, you might see it either way, control, disposition/transfer, that one you might see it either way, transfer or disposition, and then exclusion. So let's break those down. So the first one we have is possession. Now, possession just means that you have the right to hold title and that the title holder is the owner of the property. That's it, pretty straightforward, right? So you have the right to own title. The next one is quiet enjoyment or enjoyment. You might see it either way. Now, this one here, let's go over the definition real quick. It reads that the right of an owner or tenant to enjoy possession of the premises in peace and without disturbance within legal confines. So we're going to get into limitations later on. So really it just means that you have the right to enjoy your property in peace, that no one should be bothering you, or you have the right to just enjoy your property. Again, we'll get into limitations a little bit later. So the next one we have is control. And really what control means is that the title holder can use the property however they like as long as it's legal. That's it. They just can't do anything illegal on the property, but they can control it. They can do whatever they want, okay? Now the next one, disposition or transfer. You might see it either way. Now think of disposition as dispose, right? Disposing of. So you have the right to transfer the ownership. If you want to will it, no problem. If you want to rent it, no problem. You can do whatever you want with the interest of the property. Okay, so you have the right to transfer the property. There's your disposition, there's your transfer. Now, the last one we get a lot of questions on too, it's exclusion. So with this right allows a title holder to limit who may or may not enter the premises, again within legal confines, right? And these are my 2 favorite signs over here. Now, of course, there's going to be limitations. If you're renting out the property, you can't limit who comes onto the property. If you're renting it to the tenant, now that interferes with their quiet enjoyment and all that other good stuff. Also, if there's a search warrant, the search warrant will supersede your right to exclusion. So they have the right to enter the property. So within legal confines, you do have the right to limit who may or may not enter the property. So there you have it, folks. Those are your real property rights, which include your bundle of rights and your 3 land rights, okay? So air, surface, and your subterranean rights. Now, in part 2 of the video, I am going to go over the limitations, why you just can't do whatever you want on your property, why you can't charge airplanes rent when they go over your property, all that good stuff. So we'll break that down. If you have any questions, comments, please leave it below, and I'll definitely get back to you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next class.